Welcome back everybody to day 1 of the World Championship Series for StarCraft 2. We're already nearing the end of the day and headed into the 7th match, where we'll feature an extremely talented Danish Terran player. He's been one of the best non-Korean players, including, actually he's the best non-Korean Terran player for a very long time now. So please help me give a warm welcome to Team Liquid's Bunny. Bunny will be going up against a Finnish Protoss player who has been the most successful European player in WCS for a very long time. He has never dropped out of the round of 32. Please help me welcome Welmu. Looks like this match will be blue versus red. It is bound to be an amazing game with the clash of these two amazing European players. Gentlemen, shake hands.
Good luck.
Apollo, who do you think will come out on top?
Well, Smix, that's just giving the game away way too early. I can't give you an answer, but that's what these guys are here for, to help instead. What a wonderful matchup this is between these two players, two great European players. But let's take a closer look at the map, or the group, sorry. Overall, we have Welmu versus Bunny, as just mentioned, and the other matchup in this group is Haz versus Kane, the 4 players in Group D to round up the evening on day 1. All right, now let's talk about these players. First up is Bunny, who's got a great story around why he loves WCS.
WCS means a lot to me because it's the biggest tournament. I remember even way back in 2012 when it was announced, I just started playing like really seriously, trying to become pro and stuff like that. And when it was announced, I just remember going to bed and like thinking about this great tournament. Oh, it would be so great to win and stuff like that. So whenever I play in WCS, I'm always pretty nervous compared to other tournaments because it means a lot to me. I really want to like have the trophy for WCS. It's not as much about like the money and stuff like that. I just want to say like eventually when I do stop playing that I like manage to win the biggest tournaments, stuff like that. I think that would be really cool. So that's the main motivation.
Bunny loves WCS, and it means a lot to him, which puts a lot of pressure when joining the main stage. And joining us on the panel, actually, is Funke, our observer, who's been covering the majority of the games and also casting some in French. So welcome to the desk, and you're looking wonderful in that jacket.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts on this player here?
I think Bunny is actually the best non-Korean as Terran, I guess. He's a really, really talented player, and he's at 2014. That was a really good year for him. First major victory. So I guess he has the potential to go really, really deep into the tournament.
Guys, are you backing on that?
The great thing about Bunny is that for a long, long time, he's been really good. And I think a lot of pro players, even back when it was halfway through last year and there was those Home Story Cups, I think even at the beginning of the year, everyone was like, I really want to practice with Bunny. He's this great practice partner. He shows a lot of promise, a lot of potential. And now he's able to finally show that and push it forwards. And to see him doing as well as he is really good.
I think towards the end of 2014, if you kind of look away from his results and look at his head-to-head versus Snoot and maybe his online performances versus the guys practicing on the ladder, he was almost considered better than Snoot. And, you know, we looked at Snoot as that #1 non-Korean, and Bunny started to overtake in that department. You think that's something that we could foresee for the rest of the year?
We could see it, and this tournament's going to be like the main tournament that concludes that, right? We've got Bunny and Snoot in here. How far can they both go? We've got Welmu as well. So all 3 of them going to be fighting for that top spot. We'll see if Bunny can do it and take out that top spot as the best foreigner.
So it's a lot of work to do. I mean, we've got a lot of rising talents, as we've already seen on the stage. Showtime playing great, and a lot of other players really rising up. Cyril as well. But what is it about Bunny as a Terran player, Funke? What is it exactly about him that makes him stand above the other Terran players? Because over the years, we've had the Cass, we've had the Happy, but what is it about Bunny?
If I can recall correctly, I guess at the beginning of Heart of the Swarm, he was one of the first to actually use mines against Protoss, and it was really frightening to Protoss players back in the day. Everybody was talking about that because nobody would implement that in their TVP play. So that's something that is really, really good about a player when he can actually build a style that nobody uses before him. So I guess that's one of the reasons. And then he's really persistent. Like he's been playing a long time, and he's getting better and better. Like every single month, you can see him progressing and being better at the game. So now that he is with Team Liquid, I guess that's a next step towards like being a better player and maybe show himself as the new best player as a foreigner.
And I think if you look at his WCS overall stats here, and if you know Bunny's story, I think the stats actually reflect a lot of that if you followed it very closely, because he was a player who played in WCS but lost in the round of 32.
Yeah.
Maybe luckily made it to the round of 16 but then lost again in the round of 32. And his losses took a big hit. But over the last 6 months or so, those wins have crept back up now, and he's, roughly balancing a 50% win ratio, which is good. And like I said, if you followed it, you can really see that progression as a player. But another guy we have to talk about now is Welmu, who is considered, not even considered, he is the best performing European we've ever had in WCS.
Most consistent.
Most consistent. He's played every single WCS apart from one, every time top 16, and he's had a couple of top 8 finishes as well. But Welmu has a bit of an own story, which we'll hear from him now.
Amazing.
Well, for round of 32, I mainly played ladder and watched my opponent's VOD. Since I had a long break, I wanted to focus more on ladder practice just to get my basic skills better. And yeah, for round of 16, I think I will focus more on my opponents. I think my biggest strength is that I think I'm pretty unpredictable about my play, that I can do pretty much anything, like all-ins, macro, cheese, anything. I describe myself as unpredictable because I can I deny my opponent scouting, that they don't manage to scout what I'm doing, and then I mix up my builds so they can't assume what I'm doing.
Who doesn't love that accent that he's brought to the WCS season after season after season? This is Welmu. He's currently in the Premier League undefeated with 2-0 versus Huck, 2-0 versus Maxed. And then if you just think back for a few seconds, we looked at the win, the WCS overall stats for Bunny. Look at Welmu, who's been playing for a good couple of years in WCS. 20 wins and 9 losses against some of the best competition we had in WCS Europe last year and the year before.
And the thing is that all of that in the round of 32 groups, round of 16 groups, was almost always first place in those groups, going up against some really, really strong opponents. So, and that was back when, you had some big hard-hitting Koreans really implemented in WCS Europe for a long, long time. So for me, at the moment, in terms of results, in terms of performances, best Protoss in Europe, best potentially even Protoss in the Western Hemisphere.
I'm very excited about this match because when looking at both of these joining together as one now, you have a player who's been in WCS system for such a long time and got such good results, and now it's time for the big dog to get into WCS and really show what he's capable of showing, which is Bunny. Is that the way that you look at it as well?
Yeah, exactly the same. And we're going to see how it comes down because Welmu's that consistent player. Bunny's going to be coming in, he's also solid. What Welmu said there as well in the interview is that he's unpredictable. Bunny generally plays for a solid style, pretty much standard all the time. So I think Welmu's going to be trying to get in there, find the holes in Bunny's armor, and he says he likes to look at the VODs a lot as well. So what holes does Bunny have to offer when he's such a solid player?
Well, I guess that's Welmu's way to crack into it and hopefully find a win in this series. But let's take a close look at the map pool now, because I think the map pool can tell us a lot about what we're going to be seeing throughout this series. So Catalina, Vanni Research Station, and Overgrowth. Are there a lot of tricks and unpredictability that we can see from Welmu out of these maps here, Funke?
I guess Catalina as a pick for Welmu is actually really interesting because that's usually something that Protoss player never want to play. And he actually picks it as his first pick, which means he has something in store for him. And we know Welmu as a player that actually loves Blink Stalkers and Colossus All-Ins, which is actually a decent play that you can do on this map because you can actually blink from everywhere in the main base. So that seems rather maybe a little bit too easy, maybe too easy to read into, but I'm pretty sure he has something in store because you never want to play Catalina as a Protoss in PvT.
Yeah, Catalina, I'm pretty sure we're going to see a Blink All-In on there, for sure.
That would make sense, right?
Yeah. But Vanni Research Station, a bit more of a standard map. I'm going to see more standard stuff, I think, from him. Like I said, we can play any style, so we're going to see him go for the standard play there. What do you think about the last map, Kaylaris?
What was it? Overgrowth.
Overgrowth.
Yeah.
Overgrowth. The thing is that he's like really fast Colossus rushes on there to actually just put pressure on very, very early. But he is the embodiment of Protoss aggression in Europe and in the Western world. So regardless of which map it is going to be, I think full gung-ho here for Wellmu.
All right, so final question here before we go over to the commentary team. How does this series play out? Is it Bunny, who's the solid Terran player, looking for what Wellmu's up to and then scouting it and figuring it out and then hopefully defending it? Is it that simple?
I'd say a little bit more. Like, it's going to be interesting to see what Bunny can scout, but actually what he can understand, because I'm pretty sure from Wellmu's perspective, he's going to try to sell a story that isn't true. Like he's going to go like MC would do. He would go Twilight every game, go Blink. Are you going to all-in me? Are you going to go into third base? Like he needs to read, but he needs to read even better than against any opponent. He needs to find out what's hidden behind the first tech that he's going to scout, because it's never going to be true, in my opinion.
And what is the best way to do that? Is it planting those scans down? Is it getting the Reaper in, sending SCVs around? What is the best way for him to get this information that's so crucial to his victory?
I think Bunny's got to get that Reaper out early, make sure he gets it in the base, make sure he's looking for all kinds of proxies and things like that. Maybe use a scan if he's unsure of what's doing. Obviously, you don't want to fire off scans everywhere, you'll lose all your economy. But if he's getting a bit confused, just throw a scan in there, make sure he knows exactly what's going on.
All right, well, thank you very much, guys, once again for your lovely bits of information. Thank you for joining us here, Funker, and we'll have a talk with you after the series is completed. And now it's time for the game between these two players. I'm looking forward to this one, two rising stars, if not already accomplished stars in the European scene, going head-to-head. It's Denmark versus Finland.
Thanks, Apollo. And I have to agree about some of the predictions about Wellmu's play. You know, if you're going to leave Catalina open, when I got a chance to talk to DeMulzum about some of Wellmu's styles as he played in the Frybite Masters against guys like Happy, said maps like this, Wellmu, he's known for that very powerful two-base Colossus push that he makes with no upgrades, is one of the deadly builds to throw out on ladder, because like Wellmu said, and like most people know, he's also pretty good at mixing it up. So it's hard to tell when exactly that comes in, because if he fakes you out and denies your scouting, as everyone's kind of been talking about, it gets very, very tricky to defend.
Yeah, you are not as consistent as Wellmu if you just all in all the time, and if you just keep going for those silly Blinkstalker Colossus builds, like you're not going to make it to the round of 8 or round of 16 multiple seasons in a row. He did bring it out this time though in the round of 32 when he played against Igas, our Aussie from down under. Isis walked up to us after that series and he's like, what are these builds? He's like, I maybe expected this from the Chinese Protoss players, but what is Wellmu doing? Because some of the games made 0 sense. That was like a 2-base +1 Blinkstalker attack at like the 14-minute mark that somehow went up to 160 supplies. Like, that was full Protoss, man. That was Protoss in all its glory. But Wellmu has shown us in the past that he can macro, he can be a very solid player as well. And he also said, you know, I've been on a little bit of a break, so I went into the round of 32 not expecting too much. Of course, I wanted to win, but I wasn't really overly prepared. This time, I think he's going to be much more solid. Bunny, on the other hand, he lost against the Protoss in the round of 32, but he's still Bunny, so he's still so solid. I don't think we have to look too much into these results. Going into this series, I think Bunny is a small favorite, but we will see, Nate.
Yeah, we will see as we're loaded into Catalina for the first map here. In the left side, we have the blue Terran player representing Team Liquid. He's Bunny. Someone who has a lot more practice against the styles of this Protoss. In the northeast, the red one, he is Wellmu.
Wellmu. He's a very likable guy. It's very hard to dislike Wellmu. He's also one of these guys that you kind of just want to see do well because he's so funny. In every single interview, like, you listen to him and you get a smile on your face.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, you're like, that is a cool guy. I would like to see more of him, and I hope that he has success in whatever he does. But over the last year, Bunny has definitely been the more impressive player, especially over the last few months. Let's say, you know, the last 5-6 months. Wellmu was very strong all the way up to WCS Season 3 of 2014. After that, it went very quiet around him. Recently, we saw a little more of the old Wellmu that participates in tournaments, especially in one tournament that you've been casting very closely with our dear friend Benjamin Baker. Of course, the Fragmite Masters. And Nate, talk to us. How did Wellmu do?
I mean, Wellmu made a pretty deep run, in all honesty. The biggest obstacle that he ended up hitting was Happy, who managed to make it in the top 4. He didn't actually end up playing against Bunny in that tournament, who is also in the top 4. But he got very, very far in that lower bracket. I'm thinking the biggest thing to keep in mind is when we compare Wellmu's matches to the against Bunny here to the ones he played against Iagas is not someone that would have played a lot of games versus Wellmu on ladder. You know, if you're playing from the Southeast Asia, if you're living in Australia, you're most likely playing on the Korean server for your main source of practice and very unlikely to be familiar with the styles. I expect that Bunny kind of knows what he's getting into going up against someone like Wellmu.
Yep. Well, so far everything is very standard in this PVT. The boys were talking about a Blink Stalker all in, straight up. I'm not really expecting that. What I would rather expect is that Wellmu is expecting a Reaper opening into a command center, into a Widowmine drop, and just try to deal with that as good as possible, and then put on some serious counter pressure with 3 gates, maybe even 3-gate Blink Stalker, and take it from there. Or he's just going to do something truly bizarre. He's on 1 gas, right? Yeah, okay, he's just waiting. Yeah. For a second I was like, is he on 2 gas? Is he going to proxy his target? But he's on 1 gas. So he's just going to wait until the Reaper is into his main base. At 3 minutes and 50 seconds, that's about the time that you want to send the probe into the natural, because then you can start chipping away, you can start tasing that SFV, and Nate as a Terran. That's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, being able to get in there and harass that while your Reaper's out on the map really hurts. He kills a probe, though. Good control so far. He's gonna... Oh, if he got in the next one and slipped out, that'd just be criminal, Roddy.
This normally only happens in my ladder games. This is a very good scout, though, for Wellmu. He doesn't work on that SCV. Instead, he just goes into the main base because he wants to see if it's a 2-Rex or 3-Rex follow-up, or if it's that quick factory. Which
very nice scouting. Yeah, it's really important to note, Kev, as the Protoss players, it's been very standard, much more so than at any other time, I feel, and during Heart of the Swarm, where most Terran players are opening up 2-base factory because they've gotten so good at controlling their medevacs and getting those mines in. Whether or not they kill anything, they still manage to pull them out, and they keep them around much longer than they used to, and that's become an increasingly difficult thing for Protoss to deal with.
Something I sometimes like to do, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily the best thing, but okay, he's doing so far the same thing as Showtime did against Moro, and that's just answering with a Twilight, and then maybe he even gets gate number 2 and 3 before the Robo. That is very tricky, though, because the first mine will land before you have an observer out. Is that if I know the Widowmine drop is coming because I scouted that factory, sometimes I like to get a Fortunate and just drop a cannon in both bases and then counterattack with Blink Stalkers, because on the other side of the map you don't have to worry too much about the Widowmines because you can just trigger them with your Blink Stalker. Maybe Wellmu will do something like that, or he's just going to drop the robotics facility. We'll see.
I mean, he's got a reasonable number of options. It seems that so far he's going for the denial route. As you said, that the Widowmine should be able to plant itself before Wellmu has an observer on the map. And I do like this. Bunny's going for a short Marine push out. Since Wellmu's opening up with Stalkers, he shouldn't have too much trouble handling this, but I get the impression that what Bunny wants to do is force out a Photon Overcharge while he runs his Reaper behind the main base mineral line to scout.
I actually don't like this too much for Wellmu, because right now he's very low in production. He's adding gateway number 2 now, but he only has 2 Stalkers, I believe, and Stalker number 3 is on the way. Yeah, I actually don't like this at all, because if you only have these so few units, you want to have these units out on the map at least a little bit, or have some vision so you can start chipping away at these Marines. He's going to be forced to burst Photon Overcharge immediately. He has to focus fire.
Oh, wow. Gets the mothership core. The mine's going to burn. Okay, he does manage to pick it off at the same time the Reaper ran into the main base. I don't think he got too much there.
No, he didn't. No. Maybe a single worker.
But still, killing the mothership core is huge, because this means that you won't be able to have another, it won't be even close to another Photon Overcharge by the time this drop hits.
Well, if he wouldn't have killed it though, the mothership would have had even less energy. So I do agree that it's huge because it's 100 gas in this phase in the game, but that mothership will actually have more energy right now than it would have had if it stayed alive.
Huh.
Because it spawns with
I hadn't quite thought about that. Well, here comes the drop. The robotics facility is halfway done, as you said, Kev. He won't have an observer out anytime soon. This mine burrows, but
it's going to shoot at the Stalker. Wow.
It just, oh,
it misses the pro. I really thought it was going to shoot at the Stalker.
Into the abyss, Roddy. He doesn't get anything with that. Well, I mean, he could try to focus on a couple of these probes as he's pushing this Stalker away. He's got a good amount of Marines, which are quite difficult to pick off. Blink is not even done, which further complicates this ordeal.
And he doesn't have a probot on the map or something, or a pylon, you know, that he can start counterattacking immediately. I don't like this at all for Wellmu. He's going to be defending for the next 2-3 minutes in the game.
If Bunny target fires with this mine, he could get
he's going to shoot.
Massive amount of damage.
This mine is going to shoot. It's probably going to shoot at your probes.
Oh, just chooses to chunk out a Stalker. I mean, he's got another mine dropping towards the natural. There's no Photon Overcharge still on that mothership core. And here comes the drop back to the main base. So distracting the Stalkers left mine burrows, and boom! Nice detonation. Picks off 3 probes, and of course he's going to have to pull that observer over there as well. And he gets away with the medevac too.
And he got another Stalker there apparently with some of these Marines. This is a disaster for Bunny in my opinion. Right now, excuse me, for Wellmu of course. It's awesome for Bunny, because right now Bunny's up in workers. He hasn't really lost anything. Wellmu knows that he can't go out, because the moment he goes out right now, he's going to lose one of his 2 mineral lines against the following drop. And then he's super all in, and it's very unlikely that he's ever going to be able to make it work. I don't like the way that Welmo dealt with this drop or this arrest so far, Nate. He scouted it. He knew that the follow-up was going to be a factory, and he was still kind of caught off guard. The first poke surprised him. The mine blew up. The second mine was able to shoot again. Overall, this was just not flawless defense by him.
No, Welmo even recognizes that if he tried to go into some sort of push, it just would not work. So he's going to go double forge. He's going to have to try to grind this one out. But Bunny playing very defensively. He's got tanks back home. He's got a missile turret up at the front. He's ready for anything.
He's going to fly his observer maybe in the missile turret. This is really bad.
No.
Don't do that, Welmo. That's also something that Roddy does.
Didn't even need to scan.
If I didn't know any better, this was a Roddy replay so far, Nate.
Would you wish that upon Welmo?
No, not at all. Not even on his worst day does his play truly looks like me. But he's making a couple of mistakes that the average Protoss players makes all the time. And, you know, I find myself in that. You fly your observer into the missile turret. You're too late to deal with a Widow Mine. Then you think you can take care of it before it shoots again, but it still shoots again. And then even a Marine picks off a Stalker. Also something that shouldn't happen up to the point where there is Stim or... you know, whatever on the field, and that wasn't the case.
So what does Welmo need to do now? Because
just defend.
Stim is about to finish.
He's double forging, so truly the only thing he can do is just defend. Going up to 3 bases right now would be absolute suicide. He doesn't have the army to defend 3 locations at once. The only thing he can do is just defend on 2 bases.
So ideally for Welmo, Bunny makes a couple of pushes into this defensive setup and overcommits.
Yes, maybe flies a full medevac over a bunch of Stalkers, but that's pretty much the only thing. Bunny, of course, is most likely too experienced to make that happen, and I would love to see that. I can still see this game go either way, but in my opinion, Bunny right now is in the absolute driver's seat. He's in full control of this game, and I don't really know what Welmo is supposed to do other than hoping for a mistake of his opponent.
Bunny's upgrades are pretty late, all things considered. Yeah. This is the one advantage that Welmo's going to be able to hold on to because of how quickly he went into that double forge. He can start his 2-2 right now, and he should have that before we're even looking at possibly even 1-1 at a Bunny. And that's one of the things, you know, we see Terran players trying to make pushes with a supply lead against +2 charged zealots, and that's usually where Terrans throw away a lot of their games because they don't have those upgrades.
That's definitely the case, but if I was Bunny, I would just keep Welmo on 2 bases, go up to 3 bases myself, which is exactly what he's doing right now, floating over that command center. Like, Welmo could theoretically try to go for a 2-2 push, but I don't really believe in those, especially not if you look at the economy of Bunny right now, because Bunny's going to have like a 50 supply advantage, and, you know, upgrades are awesome and all, but at the end of the day, you need a few units too.
Yeah, the Stalker steps out, picks off a Marine. And this is just a very large force. I mean, it is pretty Marine heavy, at least this force that he has out on the map. So it's a bit tricky, but he's loading up a lot of drops. So he's really trying to threaten both positions. And Welmo actually splits off some of his forces to his main. He's recognized that he has a vulnerability if he commits too much to one of his bases.
And the worst thing is that Welmo lost that single observer, right? And that he flew into the...
yeah, he doesn't really have much out on the map.
Yeah, he has 1 more observer. That's the only map vision he has. And if there's any map where you want to have at least 2 to 3 observers, maybe even 4, and I know that may sound ridiculous, but it's true. Sometimes you do see a lot of Protoss play with 4 observers on this map. It's Catalina, because there are so many different ways that medevacs can fly in and hit you, especially if you're trying to defend 3 locations. But even if you try to only defend 2, right now, you know, the supply is telling the entire tale of this game. Bunny's up 31 supply, he's up in workers, already starting to produce Vikings. Does he have a second starport? That is the one thing that... Oh yeah, he does have that as well. Yeah. And even a second reactor added to it. Man, Bunny's on top of this game so far.
He's got everything he needs. The only thing that he has to really get going now is that Viking production. These Stalkers blink up, okay, gets a couple of units. He chips away at Bunny. But Bunny's still just steadily approaching that max. And here comes the big drop into the main base, dropping around this Colossus to limit the amount of damage that AoE can do. Just completely wrapping around it. This Widow Mine actually takes a big chunk out of the Zealots during the meantime. And these Stalkers are going to come up. He should be able to get close to all the medevacs.
Yeah, that wasn't that effective though for Bunny. This is the moment that Welmo, I think, should be going up to 3 bases. Don't get over eager right now and think that you can just counterattack.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, he lost the Colossus, like just 1. I guess his Widow Mines are still here, which is can be a bit frustrating. But I guess he's seeing this as his chance.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I feel.
I mean, he's got his 2-2. Charge is about to finish,
and the medevac count is very low. Like Bunny lost a lot of medevacs in the process. He lost 1 in the middle of the map, and then he lost 3 or 4 in the main. Here come those mines. A little too soon, perhaps, but he's gonna get a juicy shot.
No, just 2. Well, this is actually the best opportunity, I think, for Welmo if he wanted to make this push, because the upgrade lead that he has, like, he can send a couple Zealots here, and it's like, well, try to defend that now. I'm going to force you down this ramp.
And if there's one thing that Welmo's very good at, it's like Blink Stalkers, sniping Vikings and stuff, and keeping his Colossus alive. And of course, because Bunny lost so many medevacs, he needs Vikings to deal with his Colossus, so he actually doesn't have too many medevacs, so he has to be very, very cautious and careful with his stims.
Yeah, Wellmu's starting to get a nice position on this ramp. Okay, picks off the Observer. The Colossi a bit exposed. Get those Stalkers there. Oh, he's got a couple of the Marauders in this space as well. He's kind of helped soften up the Colossi. Takes away all the shields of one. The army is moving up. The Zealots are going to come in. He's warping in Zealots from the east side. SCVs are going to be pulled. The Colossi is actually attacking SCVs here at the bottom. It's not fighting against this Bio army.
I still think this is a pretty damn good fight for Wellmu so far. Okay, he does lose that one Colossus, but he still has one Colossus alive, and I don't think he should lose it. He has to reposition it really, really quick, though. A lot of these Stalkers are not participating. He needs like 6 or 7 Zealots, and then I think he can steamroll that army of Bunny.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job kiting and keeping that one Colossus alive. As you said, the Zealot weapons are so important. +2 attack is about to finish for Bunny. That's really his last chance here as he starts to even these upgrades out. He's starting to push towards this ramp again. The third command center was completely cleaned up of all of its workers as well. It might even lose it.
I cannot believe that this is actually what we're watching. Like, the only thing that Wellmu could have hoped for is that Bunny overextended and went for a silly drop. That is sort of what happened. He gets the orbital, so now we're on even basis.
Bunny has, I mean, Wellmu's completely turned this game around, and at this point with the upgrades
he should go
as
back
they
and
stand,
expand.
he can go back, expand. He doesn't need to try to force it in. He might try, though.
His army is still
bit bold.
19 army supply advantage. I don't like that the Zealots are behind the Stalkers over here. Has to be a little bit careful. There's only 2 Colossus.
With +2 attack, dealing with the Zealots becomes significantly easier for these Marines and Marauders.
Bunny, I mean, Wellmu has to be a tiny bit careful that he doesn't overcommit right now. Like, you don't have to push the issue anymore, mate. Like, you killed that orbital.
Okay, starts the third base. I really, really like this for Wellmu. With the upgrades that he has, you can't really, like, counter-pull SCVs into this. You pretty much just have to play behind as Bunny.
And something that we've been talking about very often lately, Nate, is like, if a Terran is up 10 workers, if a Terran is up a base, a full base, and has absolute map control, do you really need to send 4 medevacs to the main base? Like, no, you don't.
Against the 2-base Protoss.
You don't have to do that.
It's one of like the cornerstone rules of TVP. It's like dropping a 2-base Protoss is just like a risky thing to do. Never send more than just like a mine. And it's one of the things that, like, you know, spending time with Demuslim, he's like, yeah, if the Protoss wants a turtle, just drop mines. Don't throw away your whole army.
Because the moment that if they would have fought with the entire army of Bunny before Bunny would have lost a drop, and then you're looking at 6, 7 medevacs and then all those Vikings, that army of Wellmu would have been steamrolled. But Bunny lost so much in the main base, lost 4 medevacs from units, and lost the actual medevacs.
He hallucinates some Colossi, get ready to push forward, and Bunny's just like, good God, how did you afford to build that many Colossi? Yeah, that's actually a really good point, though, because he just stimmed his whole army, and one of the medevacs has no energy, so this army, he can't even heal it. Just have to wait. Immediately burning through all the medevac energy. He's lost a solid 10% of the health on all these units now.
Man, Wellmu got such a good fight on that hill as well, you know, with a couple of force fields going down and all the Vikings being very exposed, just idling above a very respectable
Bunny's
number
pulling
of
out his
Stalkers.
SCVs, and I think once he sees this, he's like, all right, I'm going to back it up. Bunny still has a chance to float over his main base, but, you know, the most important thing about securing this third base, as the Mothership Core does against Knight, the most important thing about this third base is getting the mineral income to just build a ton more Zealots to reinforce this, and then with the charge...
There's no storm on the way, Nate. Like, this could still get a little bit tricky. How many Colossus are we currently looking at? 3 against 9 Vikings.
He's got his 4th Colossus about to pop.
He's getting cannons, and of course he can just turtle in his natural, but if I was Bunny right now, I would probably just kill that third Nexus and then go back.
It's becoming a game of trading thirds. There's quite a few probes there too for Wellmu with that third
I
base.
would not attack up to the natural. Like, that's just absolute suicide. I would try to get a fight over here. It's still going to get very hard because Wellmu's army is pretty damn massive. It's big. A 114 army supply against 106 gets the Nexus. If I was Bunny right now, I'd float over my main and I'd go back.
Yeah, try to get the hell out of here. This is the problem. You know, Terran does not have recall in this situation. He's going to have to take a fight. Here he comes. There's another hallucinated Colossus. Scans trying to target fire down now as the Zealots move onto the army. The Colossi being hit by the Vikings. He's down to just 2 now. Still has 1 with full health and armor. He picks off most of the Terran army, lands the Vikings.
No, the other one's real.
I think that's it.
Yep.
GG. Wellmu takes game number 1. A fantastic comeback against Bunny. With I have to say, you know, for Terran versus Protoss, one of the things that we try to stress is the importance of the upgrades. And you get into these fights, Bunny throws away a bunch of supply. The game's still in a somewhat manageable position, but Wellmu realizes, like, this is my opportunity to counter push. My 2-2 is finishing up, and he just threw away what 40 supply. For just a Colossus.
And it wasn't just bio units, it was also those important medevacs. He lost 1 medevac on the south side of the map where he lost that tank, and then he lost 4 medevacs in the main. And obviously he needs to produce Vikings at home, otherwise he has no answer to the Colossus. So the result is that he's defending with a pretty big bio army in the end, but he has like 2 medevacs, and that's just not enough. And everything is dying so damn quickly. Wellmu, you know, he got that game handed to him a little bit though, because Bonnie just made, I would say, an overcommitment that he really did not have to do. He was up in workers, he was up in army supply, and he had absolute map control, and he still sent like 4 medevacts. I think the only reason why he did it is because he saw a pretty reasonable army on the right bottom side or the right middle side of the map, which picked off that medevac and the tank. And Bunny's like, oh, okay, you know, if your army's over there, then I can just go ahead and drop your main. Well, Photon Overcharge is pretty good against like armies of that size. And there was a Colossus, and there were Zealots on top of every single unit that were being dropped.
Even though he sniped the Colossus, the Zealots being underneath were just able to get an amazing number of swipes off.
Like, if he would have been able to unload those 4 medevacs in the corner of a base and then stim forward, he would have cleaned that army up and he would have killed the Nexus. But the fact that those units were being dropped one by one on top of a Protoss army, that made it actually very manageable for Welmu, and that made it possible for him to turn around that game. Pretty sick comeback, and I think that Bunny's probably looking and thinking about the game. He's like, man, how did I let that happen? That was so unnecessary. I had a great start.
Yeah, I mean, going for the defensive tank, he spent a lot of gas, right? And I got to go back to the upgrades on that one, man. If he gets that, if he just, you know, if you have that upgrade lead and the Zealots aren't able to come in, and I still thought that a couple things went nice, like the Colossus was attacking SCVs that were like pulled onto a Zealot in the 3rd base. But
it's just that the Vikings were not able to take care of the last 2 Colossus, and you know, as long as just 2 Colossus survive, even one Colossus changes everything. It's funny how the unit works, but that Gateway army would have no DPS if it wasn't for that Colossus. And the moment that Colossus is there, well, then the Terran is like, okay, do I try to kill it and then let the Stalkers do work, or do I ignore it and let my bio get fried by this Colossus? It's like...
Not a fun place to be either way, as the second map will be Vani Research Station. Quite a narrow map. You have a lot of space that can be used to access the main via either Blink Stalkers or, you know, Colossi can actually stroll up those as well, so further complicating things. And I really believe that when you're playing on this map, you have a lot of drop space that I think is good for not only for the medevacs if you wanted to go for one of those 2 base mine drop plays, but also if you wanted to, or Welmu, excuse me, wanted to open up with anything like a DT drop or an Oracle. It's very easy to keep those things alive since you have so much space behind your natural and your 3rd.
No, I couldn't agree more. So we'll see how this one plays out, Nate, as we are almost good to go for game number 2. I'm a little bit surprised, I'm a little bit shocked. Not just the fact that Welmu is up 1-0, but especially in the way that it happened. Like, you know, we can go over that game for days, but at the end of the day, Bunny knew. Bunny was in a great position. Bunny's opening played out the way that he wanted. I was a little bit, I would almost say, disappointed with the way that Welmu defended the Widowmine drops, despite the fact that he saw it was coming. And, you know, I'm definitely not one to talk, because I lose my entire mineral line over and over again. But
you learn the secret now, Roddy, though. All the Protosses out there, it's like, oh, I lose some probes to Widowmines, I lose some Stalkers. I just gotta play like Welmu, that's all.
There's a Mothership Core, and then this counterattack with Blink Stalkers, and somehow make it happen.
Yeah. The dream.
You know what happens when I try that, Nate? There are like marauders 360 degrees around my army that just like
no scope your whole army.
No scope, slurp me up, and this is like, it's like a nightmare, you know, where it keeps coming closer and you just can't run because everywhere you look there's a marauder.
Oh yeah.
That's how my games look.
That sounds pretty awesome. So we're loaded into game number 2 on Vani Research Station. In the top position down a map representing Team Liquid, we have Bunny.
And over here on the south side of the map, we have our red Protoss player hailing from Finland. It is Welmu. Welmu is such a cheeky guy.
Yeah. What do you think of his sweater? I think it's very...
I love it.
It looks cozy, you know? It's like the kind of sweater you'd be really comfortable in.
I think he was like rocking a similar sweater in WCS Premier League Round of 32 in the US as well. And then he was wearing those like red pants with like red shoes.
Oh yeah, I remember. That was awesome, the pants were very, very stylish.
Those pants were great. Bling would have been very proud of those pants.
So for this map, I mean, it's 2 players right. A lot of people say dropping that natural is a big deal. But if Welmu wants to play, or if, I guess not wants, but if he's forced into as well, similar to the last map, to stay on 2 bases, then I don't think that's really too much of a concern for him, right? Because he seemed to deal pretty well with it.
Yeah, but I don't think it has to be like that at all. Like on this map, I think he should be able to go up to 3 bases a little bit quicker. It's very important to see if Bunny gets Rex number 4 and 5 before he gets Command Center number 3. Because if he gets Command Center number 3 rather quickly, then I would suggest that Welmu should go up to 3 bases a little bit quicker. And yes, it's always going to be a little bit tough to defend, but he's good enough to do that. If Bunny goes all out aggression and gets Rex number 4 and 5 before Command Center 3, then I would say then it's okay to stick on 2 bases a little bit longer and just defend.
All right. Either way, I can see it working out quite well. Bunny's actually going to go for this
CC first.
CC first. So we'll probably see him start that next barracks at 17 supply. He could not get the next SCV. Some Terrans like to mix it up. I noticed this because like 4GG will actually build the 17th SCV oftentimes. Just be a little bit greedier, not afraid. But this does not lead into a mine opening most of the time, which is the most important thing to make you guys aware of. He's more likely to build a third barracks after his second one is done. He's going to scout with this SCV. He wants to know 100% that he's got nothing weird to worry about. And
it could also just be very quick, as soon as he gets like drops and stim, that he tries to actually just take a fight. Because Welmo played relatively greedy in that last game. Like, his unit production was very low, and he got Blink even before he got Observers, which means that he was lacking map vision out there as well. Of course, lost an Observer as well. We'll see. Bunny can go many ways with this, but most likely this just screams macro economic oriented opening.
Yeah, nothing crazy going to happen at the start of this game, to say the least, as Bunny sends his SCV back home. That Nexus coming in, a little bit later gas, and Welmo doesn't have any probes out on the map, so he can't even trick us into thinking that he might be proxying with that probe he had in the last game. I will say this, though. Welmo not going for any type of probe scout. It's like if he had probe scouted this game, he could have like pretty comfortably just been really greedy, maybe go up to fast 3 bases or delay his mothership core, delay his other stuff, basically, maybe even his cybernetics core, just to get that Nexus out a bit quicker. So all things considered, Bunny's in a pretty good shape considering like, the build orders that both players have opted for.
But of course, he would have lost some resources as well by scouting. So I guess
that's true.
Kind of evens things out. Gets a Twilight once again. So I think it's just going to be a relatively the same style from Welmo over here. He's going to open up with a couple of Blink Stalkers. I do think he's going to go on single Forge and then try to go up to 3 bases. The double Forge last game was more of an emergency call, I felt.
Because he took too much damage to do a 2-base play.
Exactly. He's like, well, there's no freaking way that I can go up to 3 bases right now in Catalina and defend all 3 locations. So the only thing I can do is double Forge on 2 bases and just defend and hope my opponent makes a mistake. And that is exactly what happened. This game, I don't think it's going to play out like this. Welmo probably knows he's playing against Command Center first for the sole fact that he did not see a Reaper.
Yeah, it's very unlikely anything else will be coming his way. There's also quite a few Marines on top of that ramp, so it's not like he went for any type of gas first play or nothing really crazy. And builds like that are generally unpopular anyway.
Yep.
Stim starts up for Bunny, and with the 3 barracks, even if you were trying to put on some Blinkstalker pressure, you actually have that production so fast, like having multiple racks, that it's not as difficult to defend against those types of plays as it is if you were to open Reaper.
Well, he's sending a probe across the map, so he might just throw it on 6 or 7 gateways, but I wouldn't recommend Welmo doing that. I also don't think he's
got a lot of money, Roddy. He could.
Yeah, it's either a base or it's a lot of gateways. He's taking another...
okay, never mind. Changes like, okay, I'll just start 2 gases and a robo. He could have thrown down quite a few gateways and warped in some stalkers to put pressure on, but...
I'm glad he didn't do it, though. I don't think it's a good play, especially not against the 3 racks opening, like you said. Like, I know people look at Vandy Research, it's like, man, there's so much surface area to blink into the main base, but I don't think it would have been a good play.
Yeah, I think some people forget when they look at cliffs like this that the reason why maps like Yansu and Heavy Rain were so tricky against Blink is that you had to defend multiple cliffs like that. But in this map, it's really just this one cliff. You can't blink into the natural from the gold base, so it makes it a little bit less of a headache to deal with, and you can just focus all your defenses in one spot.
This is a play that I know you love, Nate. Don't you love playing against this, Nathan Fabricant? If you guys ever watch Nate in his stream, Nate gets very excited when there are DTs being wiped into his main and natural at the same time.
There's just really nothing quite like, just desperately skinny. Okay, so for anybody here that's like, you don't watch StarCraft a crazy amount, this is actually a really smart thing to do against what Bunny has done. And you know what I'm about to say, Kev? When it comes, why Command Center first is bad versus this?
Tell me.
So because when you go Command Center first, your orbitals line up really well. And if a Terran player is dropping all their mules, you will hit 50 energy on both Command Centers at the same time. So if you drop, normally if you go like 1 Rax expand or Reaper expand, your orbitals are out of sync. So you drop a mule and then you're close to your next one, and that's in the DT state, and you're like, oh, I'm okay. Yep. But if he drops 2 mules, then he's screwed. He won't have any scans for a while, and he doesn't have any missile turrets built either.
And well, Command Center number 3 is going down before Rex number 4 and 5. So Bunny is taking a rather defensive approach over here. He sees the Stalker, spots Blink. Is probably also looking at this like, well, if he was actually committing to this, then this would probably all be a little bit harder to defend. Wellmo going up to 3 bases behind as well. The thing is, he doesn't have to do a ridiculous... Oh, he hasn't spotted the Command Center, by the way. Like, Wellmo doesn't have to do a ridiculous amount of damage with this. All he has to do is keep Bunny on his side of the map, kill, let's say, 5 SCVs, then it's already fine as long as he keeps Bunny on his side of the map so he can saturate his 3 bases on the other side of the map. That's all that Wellmo wants. And I don't think that Bunny's going to turn around, by the way, with this army. This army is too big to actually turn around.
At the moment, he's a couple seconds away from a scan. His third command center is in the air, so it can't scan. And now he's splitting up between the bases, and there's no turret. So he can only scan 2 places, but one of them he has to wait a little bit for as the command center is now landed. So there's the first scan. He's going to grab this DT. At least he should be able to.
Yes.
And now there's still 2 in the natural. And with how big the main and natural are, he can just spread himself out.
Colossus, Wellmo's not paying attention. He's going to end up losing his Colossus, and that's very painful. Mothership Core can get sniped as well before it casts Photon Overcharge. Wellmo knows that. Oh, Wellmo making massive mistakes over here on the other side of the map. If he was paying attention, Nate, he would have been in a game-winning position already because he killed 18 SCVs.
Yeah, both players in each other's faces. The DT in the main base of Bunny is picked off. There's still one in the natural. It's actually trying to kill the command center. As a missile turret does start up, that War Prism is still in position. I don't think he should be able to kill this. And he, oh my goodness, Bunny just runs right into main base. There is another Colossus, though. What a scrappy game we have here, Roddy. Bunny still maintains a 20 supply lead, but he's significantly down on workers now. And this command center is burning.
At least he was able to actually kill that that Mothership Core that casts his Photon Overcharge in the third base. Oh my god, this Prism is still alive.
It's like scan.
God, this is so frustrating for Wellmo.
I mean, he could kill this depot and force out another scan because he's not in range of this. He knows there's a missile turret, but he can pick up, dance around.
And it's just very hard for Bunny right now to actually march to the other side of the map.
There's no turret on the add-ons, by the way, so he could bring the DT over there and force out more scans if he really wanted to, though it seems like at this point he just wants to wait for Bunny to leave his base. The observer that he has in Bunny's main will actually see the army leaving from the natural if he decides to move out.
I do still really like Bunny's position in the end, though, Nate, after killing the Nexus and after killing all those gateway units, but that could have been completely different if Wellmo was paying attention to the army that was marching across the map.
DT and War Prism! Oh! Well, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, that's a great snipe as well. But imagine if Wellmo is paying attention over here, Nate, and he puts his Colossus behind his gateway units, he activates Guardian Shield and drops a Force Fielder too.
Yeah.
That bio push will maybe trade 50-50 against that Protoss army, especially if Photon Overcharge is helping out as well. Then I would say 50-50 at best. And then suddenly Bunny is in a world of trouble. But now instead, he killed the Colossus that allowed him to kill some of the other gateway units, even get the Mothership Core, and he got the Nexus as well. Now, of course, he's in a great position. Despite the fact that he lost 20 or so SCVs, he's on triple orbital command against the 2-base Protoss.
Yeah, rebuilding those SCVs was no trouble for him at all. He's already ahead in workers, and if he uses a mule or 2, he's significantly ahead in income. He has 4 actively mining at the moment. And one other thing that's very important to note in comparison to the last game, despite the way that it was still kind of scrappy the last game, the upgrades are significantly in favor of Bunny right now.
Okay, so
he's got his +2 on the way, and there's just +1 armor, like barely close to halfway done for Wellmo.
Templar Archives is going down, which I don't mind at all, but what I'm a little bit surprised by is that he went for the second Colossus and Thermal Lance, because I kind of feel that now there's a good chance that he's going to die before he has a whole lot of High Templars, because obviously he's like investing a lot of gas still in that Colossus and Colossus tech. I wouldn't have minded if after losing the first Colossus, he would have just made one more Colossus, pretend he wants to play Colossus, but then actually rush into High Templars. But now I feel like it's kind of been an in-between. It's like a 50% Colossus, 50% High Templar, because this is quicker than how you would normally get High Templars if you truly commit to Colossus. But now I feel like he doesn't have enough of either.
Yeah, it makes it very, very tricky for him. Like, he's going to warp in Panic Archons. He doesn't have time to get Storm, and for all he knows now that there may be some SCVs trailing behind this army. He's +1 attack, +1 armor is about to finish up, but here comes his bio army. The Colossi being targeted down by the Vikings. He's going to pick one off without too much trouble. And yeah, like you said, there's no charge. He can't get on top of this.
This army has no damage output at all for Wellmo. He loses both Colossus, and Bunny can just kite this for days. There is Photon Overcharge doing a little bit of work here and there.
He lands the Vikings. He's not afraid at all, and he's just going to kill everything. Zealots without charge are just trash. Flash against this soon-to-be +2 bio.
It feels so pleasant to hear that out of your mouth, Nate.
That's true, man. It's true. There's one thing I hate. It's playing against upgraded Zealots, and in this case, that is not what Wellmu has. This bio plows through everything on the finished Protoss. The probes are going to be pulled, but it will not be enough, Roddy. More panic DTs warped in as he continues to scan, and I think we're going to see Bunny tie this series up in just a few moments' time, now tripling the Protoss player supply. GG.
Pretty wild game over here on Vani Research Station between Bunny and Wellmu, where it looked for a moment that this could have been a disaster for Bunny, but in the end, you know, I kind of felt that that army was not going to turn around, because that army of his was too big and it was too far across the map to completely turn around for a War Prism and DTs. Bunny knew that the moment he would turn around over there, he would give Wellmu way too much time on the other side of the map. He would give Wellmu time to stabilize on 3 bases, and that was just not an option. So he just went for it, and he saw that army, and he probably looked at it like, that's relatively big, but he's probably not paying attention, so he just stimmed forward, he went for it, didn't think twice about it, and I think that's so important, because if that blue dot shows up on the minimap of Wellmu and then it disappears, but then it shows up again, Wellmu is prepared, warps into 3 extra Zealots, spreads out his army, protects his Colossus, casts Photon Overcharge and a Time Warp, and he won't lose that base, he won't lose the Colossus, and then he's in a phenomenal position because he's up 20 workers.
Yeah, I mean, in that spot, it's very difficult for Wellmu to lose. You just have that economy lead, you've really wrecked Bunny in the early game, and that takes a lot of fortitude, though, because you have, as Bunny, you know, you're dealing with a situation where you just have the main base being so big that those 3 DTs are able to spread out quite nicely, and I love that he was able to put 2 into the natural, cleared out the workers close to instantly, tried to stop the missile turrets from going up, and yeah, it was a couple of sloppy things after that for Wellmu. Like, he had the Warp Prism as well, which we dropped to the Vikings, and since Warp Prisms move faster than Vikings, you know, it's something that you want to avoid at the start because you've already dropped so much in the early game. But the next map, it looks like, to decide this series will be Overgrowth, a pretty standard setup map. Wellmu said in his interview he's known for occasionally being cheesy. He's thrown out the proxy gates before, but I don't know if we'll see that. Guys, it looks like we're going to have just a very short break before we go into game number 3, so we'll see you in just a few moments' time. You're watching the World Championship Series Premier League. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Championship Series round of 16 for the Premier League. We are just about ready to kick off the final map of this best of three between Welmu and Bunny, two Europeans duking it out in a pretty tough group.
Yep, definitely a tough group and definitely a fun series so far between these two. You could say that Welmu sort of stole game number 1 of Bunny, but I would almost say that Bunny sort of stole game number 2 of Welmu. Because both games there were perhaps a little bit of a throw, but also just forced errors, I guess, on either side. Especially at least in game number 2, where Bunny was very decisive in some of the decisions that he had to make. Those were snap calls, man, you know, to speak a little bit in poker terms. And those were the right calls. Game number 3 is going to be played on Nathan's favorite map, Overgrowth. We've seen a lot of good PvTs on this map over the years. For a while, I would say that the meta in this matchup, especially on this map in particular, was a little bit still. But lately, it's been definitely stepping up again, and we see a couple more interesting builds being brought out.
Yeah, I mean, you have still the opportunity with a reasonable amount of airspace to enter both the main and natural for those mine drops, so you can still play the meta a bit. It's the map that most players are comfortable on because, as you've said, you know, as we've played it over the years, it's a very, very well-tested out map that all these players have been playing on longer than any other map in the current pool. And, you know, this is going to be the last weekend that we see it, as it is finally being removed in the next season. So this is where that short rush distance does make it a little bit easier to scout. You don't have to lose as much resources checking. And I've seen Welmu throw out a proxy gate or two on this map. Not saying that he would be so ballsy as to do it here in game 3, when you'd be basically putting it all on the line, which could knock you down to the lower bracket match. But, you know, maybe Bunny's feeling crazy today.
Kind of fun to see the players being relaxed as well. Sometimes you guys wonder what's going on behind the scenes. You know, we had a small break, so I think that Bunny was just all tapped, and he wasn't actually paying attention to the game lobby. He's probably just reading whatever.
Yeah.
And suddenly the admin knocks on his door. He's like, "Yo, are you good to go?" And he's like,
"Is everything okay, sir?"
Yeah.
Is everything okay? He's like, "Oh,
oh yeah, sorry. I was just not actually looking at the lobby. You know, just like as relaxed as one could possibly be." But we are loaded into game number 3, the deciding map of our first series of Group D, our second last best of 3 of the day. It's been a long day of StarCraft, Nate, but it's been a pretty awesome one so far. And you can go ahead and introduce the players one more time, as no one, Nate, does it like you.
Oh, thanks, Kev. In the top right position of Overgrowth, we have the blue Terran player. Can he close it out? It's Liquid Bunny! And his opponent in the southwest position, the Finnish Protoss. Can he take it? He is Welmu! Try to give a bit of that Finnish twist on it.
And he let a little bit of a psycho. Welmu in general, another guy that really strikes me as someone that gets very nervous. Like these Scandinavians, I mean, obviously
they're just chill.
Yeah, they are.
I've been surrounded by them for the last month. I know.
They've got ice blood, man.
They're a bunch of trolls too.
Runs through their veins. So, like Cero as well. He doesn't get shaken up by anything. He's still so young, but he's still so calm and collected at the same time. And Welmu on the other end is a little bit more of a joker already. I would say that he used to be sort of like Cero, like still a little bit shy to the big stage, and didn't show too much of himself yet. But these days, Welmu, he comes across so relaxed. Like when he came to the round of 32 in Burbank just a couple of weeks ago, he's like, "Yeah, I booked 2 days extra. I just want to take a look at Los Angeles and see what's up. Where should I go?" I was like, "Well, you know, do you know anybody?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Can you drive?" He's like, "No." I was like, "So how are you going to get around?" He's like, I don't know. I just want to see something of the city."
Tell you what, your average methods of public transportation are not available in that particular corner of the U.S.
But he just came so relaxed, and then, you know, he advanced from his group, and he's like, now the next 2 days are going to be a lot more fun, because this is, you know, in the end, what I came for. Man, interesting placement there on his second pylon. For a second, I thought he only had a single pylon in his main. But overall, he's just such a chill guy. But there in the start of the series, you did see, like, a small sigh, because he probably realizes as well that this is still a very big game, a big moment.
Yeah, and very curious to see how long Bunny will keep mining his gas, if he'll take SCVs off of his gas, because he's going to SCV scout just to make sure he's not dealing with any, you know, variety of cheddar. The Reaper will get the follow-up scout. If he saw anything fishy, like a second gas, maybe a missing pylon, then the Reaper could just go check around the map very quickly. And I mean, Welmu still has a probe out on the map. He turned it around, so he's thinking to himself, well, maybe that Reaper's going to show up soon. He brought 2 probes to prevent this from being blocked for long by this SCV.
I think it's kind of, that probe has the same purpose as the probe on Catalina, you know, to sneak in as soon as the Reaper is well on his cross map. But he does it kind of late. Now the Reaper actually goes back. That's very interesting. I think he's expecting that probe to head towards his natural.
Yeah, and he really
This is like
would.
reverse mind game over here.
He really would want to be able to get in and get that scout off, since it is a factory build again, Roddy. And, you know, that factory, the reactions, the possible list of choices for how to respond to your opponent's opening, especially when you're playing Protoss, they vary greatly depending on whether it's a bio or a factory opening, since you don't... Now he has to worry about that mine drop again, which, to be perfectly honest, put Bunny in a phenomenal position despite the fact that he lost the first game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more though. Like, yes, he lost that game, but that was definitely not off the back of his opening. His opening was great and gave him everything that he could possibly hope for other than just a straight up win. So it definitely paid for itself. Bunny is convinced that there was a Propad on the map that would sneak in once again to try to spot that factory. And Bunny doesn't want to give that information away as easily as he did on Catalina, despite the fact that it was still so successful. He checked a couple of corners, couldn't find it in the end. But so far, this is a mirror image of Catalina, other than the fact that Welmu doesn't have the confirmation that this is the follow-up. But, you know, in this day and age of PvT, I would say you should almost expect it.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, I am surprised when there are bio units knocking on my front door. It's like, what? Where are the mines, man? Like, you're supposed to drop mines in my base.
Where are the mines? Like, even after like you see that he like rushed out a super fast stim, got like a concussive shot or something, he's like, I'm still ready for the mines.
Yeah, I got a cannon in his mineral line, baby.
Everybody's scarred now.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Eventually, you know, the meta will swing back that way. He's going to proxy a Dark Shrine this game, so I still think that this makes him quite vulnerable, right? Because he won't have the mobility that Blink could grant him. He doesn't have a robotics facility, so the mines could still end up doing a lot of damage if he's caught off guard or out of position. And I love that he's going to do this once again. He's going to have the Reaper run into the main base.
I would love to see a Forge right now, like,
and try to kill this mothership core.
Yeah, this is once again the exact same thing. He could use a Photon Overcharge, and that's exactly what he's going to do.
He's going to save the Marines this time. He has the Widowmine postured out front, but the Reaper gets to run in, and he's going to see close to everything. And the tricky part is, it's not possible for him to know how far along that Blink was.
Nope. Oh, and he cancels Blink.
Yeah, he's like,
Cheeky Kalaris.
I love it. It's like he's really gotten, you know, I don't want to say he's 100% inside of his head, but he's totally fooled Bunny. If Bunny's buying this, then, you know, he's...
Okay.
Like, I don't see any reason why Bunny would think that it's anything else.
He totally fooled him, but his detection is still going to be very late, and he won't have Photon Overcharge. And like I said, this time he's going to even have less energy than he
this
had.
supply depot. So this Widowmine actually picked something off. But this supply depot up top for Bunny sees that there's a pylon being warped in across the gap.
Oh, that's sick.
So he knows now. He's like, oh, well, why would you want to build a pylon there? Come on, let's be real.
I actually think Welmu's in so much trouble over here. He has no units to fight his army, and he doesn't have detection. Nate, he's in like a ridiculous amounts of trouble.
Yeah, the Widowmine's going to burrow. He's completely cut off this ramp. DTs are going to be warped inside of Bunny's base. Now, Bunny, where are the units, buddy? He had a good idea of what was coming his way. I mean, yeah, denying the natural is going to be great. He has to wait for a defensive DT to get warped in at this point to actually hold on.
I didn't really like that very much. He sacrificed a probe to trigger the mine. That was cool, but he took so much splash damage. Of course, the DTs are doing a little bit of work on the other side of the map, but I feel that Bunny is doing way more work. He's killing the Nexus, he's killing the mothership core.
Bunny's going to kill all the probes here too. A one-base Protoss. The DT play has been thwarted by the by Ardain here, and I don't know what else Bunny has. Like, what other options does he have? Like, I don't think there's much Welmu can do from this point.
No, I mean, we thought the same on Catalina, but this is even worse.
He's
almost down 10 workers, and he has lost his natural, and he lost the mothership core, and he doesn't have Blink this time. Yeah, a true disaster.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually so smart that Bunny built that supply depot there, because that's really that's like the #1 place where it's like, yeah, I can just warp right across this gap. But if you put that pylon a little bit further away, maybe Bunny doesn't notice it, he won't see it on his mini-map as fast, and
I mean, these
potentially this game flips on its head.
Yeah, these Stalkers are not very scary because he doesn't have Blink right now. Oh, careful, don't run into a mine. Almost runs into a mine.
Oh, that's a really good point. He has no way to bait the mines out. He'd have to warp units in and sacrifice them.
There's no way. This counter pressure is not going to work. Welmu knows it as well. So once again, Welmu's going to have to fight an incredible uphill battle.
What does he do? Is he just going to do it again, Kev? Is he going to drop 2 Forges and pray? He starts Blink.
That's what I would do. I mean, I think that's the best thing to do. I love how Bunny always gets a tank. As soon as his aggression is very successful, he gets a tank just to make sure he doesn't die against Blink Stalkers or something silly like that.
I mean, I love that these mines, even though they kind of move into the vision of the observer, they're positioned somewhere that if you tried to make a play on the ramp with either a Warp Prism or Blink Stalker straight into the main, they would be insta-wrecked.
Yeah, like the funny thing is, we know that Welmu cancelled Blink. Obviously, that's not something that Bunny knows. So Bunny is like, man, that went phenomenal for me. Now all I have to do is make sure I don't die against Blink Stalkers in the next minute of this game, because that's what he's probably going to try. And then he's like, okay, I'll get double bunker, Marauder, tank, Widowmine. He's like, Blink on me now, baby. And it's like, well, actually, Bunny, there was no Blink. But Other than that, you're good, buddy.
He has nothing to worry about. He's even salvaging those bunkers, starting a third command center. And the only things that he really needs to do to just keep this game in wraps is make sure not to fall behind in any other weird way. But there's no forges on the way for Wellmu. Like with the Immortals he's building, he must just be preparing to just go for like a 2-base, like last hope type play. I can't imagine, like without any forges, he's not building an advantage. He's just playing from behind.
But he's never going to win on 2 bases.
Yeah.
It's like literally impossible.
Yep. Now here comes this big push from Bunny. He could actually put that tank behind the mineral line and then just push from the front. His stim is ready. He's got 2 medevacs out on the map now, a third one on the way. Combat shields is wrapping up, and he has +1. There are no upgrades for the Protoss player at all. Blink will barely be done by the time this hits.
This is like Immortal Sentry Blink Stalker, but I think Wellmu underestimates the amount of economic damage that he took, or he overestimates the amount of economic damage he dealt to Bunny, because this is just an attack that's like really not going to have any juice to it. Well, this Terran army is very scary. Hey, you can even siege the tank on the right side of this natural.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. I'm like,
look at that tank. He wants to go. He's like, yeah.
He's like, yeah, I never get to do this versus Protoss. Cool. I mean, the tank's not that difficult to snipe, but it's actually kind of awkward to walk around there because the pylons are blocking all the access routes to the behind the mineral line.
Yep. Now Wellmu's like, oh man, I've lost plenty of workers this game. Do I really have to lose this one too?
And he jumps up and grabs this tank, and I guess Bunny was moving his army away, so it's like, yeah, you get something out of it. 3 more gates are going to finish up for Wellmu.
Yeah, I feel like it's Immortal Sentry Blink Stalker, but
yeah, you just got to try to make like a Doom push. And this medevac, almost runs by the Dark Shrine.
It just hits so much later than it normally does. How many observers do we currently have on the map? Just a single observer. It's actually way out of position. Nate, these mines are going to Shrek the economy.
Here he comes. First mine's going to drop, second mine's going to plop, and they're burrowing. Okay, the probe's not in quite yet position to be caught. Bunny's going to kill just a couple probes. But yeah, the observers are way out of position. He has to move that all the way back or build another one. And this is also going to slow him down. Now, what's in the top right? Does he have a warp prism moving in? What is this for? Okay, Hallucinated Phoenix and Hallucinate Warp. Well, you know,
that's very scary, Nate.
It's so slow that it doesn't matter. He can't even bait him with that because it's about to run out of life. It's like, oh yes, let me look at my warp prism as it dies.
It's a really cool idea, though. A for effort. Man, this mine is going to shoot again.
Uh-oh.
It's going to shoot big. Oh,
6 kills.
6, bro.
Nice. So Bunny just securing his lead at this point. This is a big army, and if he walks into the force fields, he's going to be sectioned off chunk by chunk, but eventually the force fields are going to run out, and Bunny's army just wins head-to-head 100% of the time. There's no way this army loses.
It's also +1 bio against 0-0 gate units. Man, that's like, a suicide blink.
Across, like, yeah, come at me, bro. And Bunny's like, do you really want to do that?
Yeah, those suckers are like, no, we've made a terrible mistake. Retreat, abort mission.
I immediately regret. As Bunny starts up his +2 attack upgrade, the Widowmine detonates again. Another 2 probes picked off. I'm like, yes, I finally killed the mines, even though I have no workers.
Yeah, this has just been a very painful game for Wellmu. He somehow got up to 60 army supply, but like you said, he just used most of his force fields. Bunny can go very, very Marauder heavy. Oh, okay, but that's nice. Very nice.
I mean, it's cute, but it's like, you know.
It's good reaction time, though.
Yeah, well, I guess if Wellmu wants to test his reflexes before he walks into the end, that will be Bunny's army.
I'm not that old yet. You know, the only thing is that like Wellman doesn't have a whole lot of zealots in his army, so you can actually.
I mean, the Marauders are just going to lay waste to all the Stalkers, and Immortals are strong. Like they're the one unit that the upgrades don't impact as much, but by lifting his command center, he opens up a lot of surface area. And you said it, there's not a crazy amount of sentry energy left. He has maybe 1 wave of force fields. Like all Bunny's playing this almost too cautiously because he can take this army, no doubt. Like he would not lose a fight. I don't even know if he needs Stim to beat this army.
I do think he would need Stim. The only one that I've ever seen win a sort of similar fight to this was Parting versus Flash, but not even that was as extreme as this is.
Here comes the big fight. There's the first of the force fields, but this opening is just a bit big. He throws the Time Warp there too, but the bio starts to trickle through the right side. He's going to continue to chase all the units that aren't Stalkers.
Victory march, Nate. That's what it is,
Just getting picked up. SCV's even coming as well for Bunny as he wants to move on to the winner's match. Every last unit chasing down Wellmu. Wellmu has absolutely nothing across the map to force counter pressure with. He's going to try to come back one last desperate hold. There's a couple force fields, but the bio's still going to trickle through, and I think this should be where Bunny nails it in.
Yeah, man. Now he's singing tempo songs. All I do is stim, 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 no matter what, and it's going to be more than enough as the Immortals get picked off. All of the pros are getting picked off as well. Dark Templar is being wiped in, but that's not going to make the difference. GG is called, and Bunny will win his first series in the WCS Premier League round of 16.
Yeah, very, very scrappy games, to say the least. You have these mine drop plays against a lot of Dark Templar play, and then Bunny, the only game he lost was the one that he was probably the most far ahead in.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that Wellmu is just not ready to deal with some of these Withermine drops, which I feel like you should be. This is not a surprising build anymore. This has been like the meta for 2.5 months by now, you know, Reaper into a command center into mine drops. And as a Protoss player, you have to be ready to deal with those drops. We saw a couple of Protoss players at IEM and even at Gfinity, you know, just handling it so well, losing maybe a probe or two, but that's about it. And like Wellmu is just taking way too much damage. His detection is too late. His units are out of position. And a player like Bonnie is a world-class Terran player. He takes advantage of that.
Yeah, and we can kind of see why. People say Bunny looking like one of the strongest non-Korean representatives here in the WCS. He's considered one of the strongest players, period. But, well, let's hear his thoughts on this as he's ready on the stage with Smix.
Thank you very much, boys. Congratulations, Bunny. You had a huge smile coming out of that booth. And what was going through your head? I mean, you were ecstatic the moment you came out.
Yeah, I felt like I did a bit of a comeback in that series because in game 2, when the DTs were kind of killing all my workers, I thought I had lost. But then he made a micro mistake with his army and I was able to come back. So a really unexpected win in the midst of all this. So I'm really happy.
Yeah, and even rewinding it even further back, in game 1, you had a really frustrating moment where you had a failed drop there. But how were you able to come back from that? I know the beginning of game 2, like you said, wasn't going so well either.
I just told myself not to rush things like I did in the first game. The medevac drop wasn't that great. It wasn't that well prepared. So I thought I'd just play a more defensive style instead of making mass medevacs, then make Vikings and play a bit more defensive, don't rush things. So it worked out.
And speaking to you right now, I'm not sure you're aware, but your head-to-head score before this game against Wellmu was actually 11-2, which is outrageously in your favor. Were you aware of this?
Yes, sort of. I knew I was doing well against him. I played him in a lot of tournaments. I think I played him in some WCS qualifiers before and stuff. And I feel like we're good friends and we play a lot together and talk about the game together. But I feel like I usually have his style pretty well down. So yeah, I was pretty confident going into this as well.
Well, next up, you're going to be facing the winner of either Haas or Kane. All of you guys are actually equally WCS ranked at 37. Headed into that potential next match, who do you think will come out, and is there someone you prefer?
Well, I know Kane has just been on vacation for like a week with his family and hasn't really played, and then he just flew over here today and he's super tired and stuff, so kind of expecting Haas to win. Kind of want Kane to win because Haas has some really obnoxious builds against Terrans, so hope I don't have to prepare for that, but we'll see.
All right, well, thank you very much, Bunny, and best of luck against whoever makes it out. Coming up next, we're going to head to a short commercial break. It'll be Canada versus Taiwan, Haas versus Kane, so stay tuned.